Hey guys, Parfax here, and today I'm bringing you a BIS Firestaff video. Absolute pumper, massive DPS. Let's get started. All right, we're here on the Fire Mage, and we are absolutely ready to pump. We're ready to put out the most damage in wars, in OPRs. We're ready to absolutely rain fire on our opponents. As you know, if you've been in OPR, that is all anybody's doing. Now, people are starting to go more towards bows because they realize it's a kind of a direct counter. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the gearing section, but let's talk about this build. I have it fully BIS'd out. We are absolutely ready to go. So first, let's go over the skill tree. Now, when it comes to the skill tree, you're going to see something that's going to be a little bit different than most people, and we'll tell you why. And this is because I have tested this build extensively. I have played quite a few hours with this, and this is what I've come up with. So we have a Pillar of Fire, obviously all the way down. Meteor Shower, we don't need any points into it because honestly, they don't really do anything for us. Grit's nice, but they removed a lot of the staggers anyway, and we really don't need it, and it's really not worth the 3 extra points we have to put in it. Immolation, Meteor Shower gives you 3% of your mana back. We don't really need it. We'll tell you why here in a minute. And then we have Fireball, and we have Scorched Earth, and then we are missing the Catch passive. Now, this is pretty good. It's going to give you 10% of your mana back and reduce your Fireball or Fire Staff ability cooldowns by 7%, but we really don't need it. We have very low cooldowns on this build, and what we actually gave up for this is actually the Spell Focus passive. Now, you might be like, Parfax, are you a freaking idiot? Well, let me tell you why. Now, this build is mainly for war. If you want to run this in OPR and you want to run mana pots, then honestly, just take out the Spell Focus passive, go down here for the Catch passive, and boom, you are good. But for me, I build this for war, and I want to make sure that I have the ability to use either my Flame Conditioning Potions, my Oak Bomb Flesh, or whatever, mixed with my Cleanse Pots. It's very important for me to be able to use both of those. So this build is going to allow you to do it. I've also went ahead and went to a Focused Earring. Focus is absolutely crazy for mana regen. It is absolutely, like, I've heard people tell me that it was absolutely, useless. So I swapped off it, and holy crap, is that passive absolutely insane. And with this build, I have not ran out of mana with this build without taking this passive. There has been a few times where I did run out of mana. So this is just going to give you that extra oomph to your abilities, allowing you to stay pretty close to cap on your mana at all times. Try it out. See what you like, but trust me, when you start getting full pumper, especially because we're running Ice Gauntlet, and the Ice Gauntlet is very heavy on the mana, this is going to allow you to really get that mana back and just allow you over time to never run out of mana. And of course, we're running Runes of Helios. Then over here in the Pyromancer tree, we're just running our 4 standard abilities. There's a little bit of talk on Let It Burn, and people are like, well, fortify. Even with the Fortify changes, this still gives you a very slight increase in damage reduction if they have Invigorated Punishment, and if they don't, just gives you nice little damage reduction. We do want to go down here and get Kindle and Watch It Burn. So in order to get that, we do have to pick one of these two, and honestly, Heat Up is a pretty bad passive, especially for the build that we're running. Next, let's go to the Ice Gauntlet tree, and you can run one of two. If you want to just run the Ultimate Chill passive for a little bit of extra Ice Gauntlet damage, you can go ahead and run that. You're going to take a lot of passives over here. You're going to have to take all 3 of these. Honestly, this passive does absolutely nothing for you because you're almost never going to crit. This passive does, again, almost nothing to you because you're never going to light attack 3 times in a row. And this passive does almost nothing for you because you're never going to crit. Again, so that's why we're not really running Ultimate Chill. And instead, we're going to go over here and get a few extra passives. We're going to get Defiant Freeze. We're going to get Refreshing Frost. We're going to get Frozen Touch, Empowered Frost, and Quick Frost. These are just going to give us a lot of utility. And honestly, whenever you're on your Ice Gauntlet tree, you're basically just losing damage. We'll talk about it in the gameplay section, but you want to use Entomb and Ice Shower for all defensively, and then Ice Storm, honestly, just to kind of get your Heart Rune Gem up, and that's it. It does do a little bit of extra damage when it comes to like your overall DPS, but honestly, it's kind of negligent damage, especially with the Void Gauntlet or the Ice Gauntlet we chose to run. We'll show you that here in a minute, but this is the tree. You can actually swap out Ice Storm It's kind of just there for a little bit of ultimate regen. You can run Ice Spike, even though Fireball and heavy attacks on Fire Staff, it just honestly a better use of your actual damage. We're an Ice Pylon if you want to be kind of memey, but this is the tree. This is going to be your very best utility tree. So let's go ahead and look at the attributes. We'll go attributes next. So with this build, we are going to run 400, 100. So we are going to be running our food here. Let's go ahead and click it so you guys can see it. We just run a 40 stat food. And we want 100 points in the con. And we are going to pump the rest into intelligence. Now we have went back and forth on a lot of these things. The reason why we settled on 100 con is it does give us the increase in our health based on our physical armor. We don't have that much physical armor, but we kind of found out that the 100 point passive here is going to be that drop off where you're only getting 3 shot by bows and not 2 shot by bows. But we even go up to 200 and get the 10% increase to physical and elemental armor, and we still are getting 3 shot by bows. Now, if you're feeling too squishy with this build, you don't quite have the you don't have the playstyle down yet, you're casting Meteor Shower and instantly burst down, feel free to continue to go up in your con. That's one thing that's great about this build. As long as you're getting decent amount of intelligence gear and not a ton of con gear, if you get right around that 100 mark, you can see here we're almost exactly at 100 con whenever we put our food on. Then you can just go up in your con as you see fit. But this is the war setup, and this is the OPR setup for the most part. OPR is a little bit harder to run this sometimes because there's just such a mass amount of range, but this is the attributes we run. Now, let's go to our gear. I'm sure that's what you guys want to see. We have it, for me, fully BIS'd out. So first, let's go with the weapon, and we are running Keen Vicious Pillar. I have a bunch of different pillar staffs. I have Vicious Pillar Attunement. I have Pillar Vicious Chain. I have a lot of different versions, and this is the best. Before you go, Keen. We're running Keen on our Fire Staff and on our ring. We are pumping our crit damage. Now, before you go outrageous, well, oh, there's all this reduction to... Okay, let's go ahead and look at the crit damage. So we already get a 1.25 crit damage multiplier on the Fire Staff just from its base weapon. We go here to the Fire Staff tree, and we get, is it this one? No, this one. Critical strike damage, an extra 15%. We go down here to our attributes. Oh, hold on. To our attributes. We go to this passive, and we get another additional 10% to crit damage. For the Fire Staff to really be effective, we are gonna crit. Crit. You know, this is kind of contrary to popular belief. Everybody's like, you don't want crit. Keen is useless. Trust me, I have tried every version of this build with multiple Fire Staffs, with multiple setups, with fire, invigorated punishment, and this is the most consistent. Can you get a higher crit if you have fire damage here and you're running like attunement here? Yes, you can have a higher ceiling, but the problem is you're just never going to crit. Your crit chance is so low that it just doesn't happen that much. So you're basically throwing away all of those passives for just be like, every great now and again, I'm going to crit. So we're running Keen here, Keen Vicious Pillar with the nerf to attunement. Not really worth it. Again, we're going AoE pumper, and attunement is okay. And if you want to run something like, I don't know, Vicious Pillar Attunement, that could be like an okay single target. But again, you really need the Keen. If you don't run Keen on your Fire Staff, you definitely want to run it on your ring because it is extremely important to get those extra crit damages. Trust me, this ring is free. Put out any Fire Staff with like Keen Vicious. There's a reason why this staff right here is going for like 150k. Very good. All right. So when it comes to the Ice Gauntlet, we're running the first freeze. Honestly, here we just want refreshing. We're going to talk about that in a minute and how many pieces of refreshing you need to get to. But there's 2 specifically that come out of mutations, which is first freeze, and the one from Dynasty. It's like Talia's something. They both have refreshing. You're just going to want to get one of the 2. Honestly, this one's probably the worst of the 2, but again, we really don't care. Keenly Jagged is very good, but again, we don't crit that often. Basically, on our basic attacks is the only way we can crit. So that is the only way you're actually going to proc that. But here, we are just really looking for that refreshing. When it comes to our helm, we want critical ret, refreshing, resilient. So it doesn't actually matter when it comes to your gear where you're getting the pieces of refreshing, but at minimum we want 5. We'll explain that here in a second why, but just note that on your gear we're looking for 5 pieces of refreshing. On your helm, we do love critical retribution. We're gonna get crit. We're gonna get crit by bows, not all the time, but a decent chunk of the time. We have fire staves, stuff like that. It's just gonna give us almost 10% extra crit for about half the time. It's a little bit under the half the time, and then you're gonna have times obviously where you're not just getting hit constantly. But this is a nice chunk of damage we are getting an increase here. And then we are running a chest piece with elemental version, flame conditioning, resilient. We have 1 piece of gear with flame conditioning because that is all we can fit in. I wish we had the ability to get more. You can run another pieces of refreshing here, but honestly, once you get to 5 refreshing, after that, you start to see a lot of diminishing returns. So I went with flame conditioning, elemental version, resilient. You can also go physical version over elemental version, but physical version just isn't quite as good. And then here, this is just a summer medley fair pattern. We have resilient, refreshing, elemental version. Again, we're looking for 5 pieces of refreshing. And other than that, we're going to stack the elemental version. And then we're going to go with our elemental version, resilient, empowering, meteor shower. We want all 3 perks for our weapon. We want, or for at least for the fire staff, we want meteor shower, we want fireball, and we want pillar, which pillar is very, very important to be on your staff. And then of course for our boots, we have resilient, elemental version, and empowering fireball. Now if you want to remove 1 piece of elemental version and swap out this amulet for a stamina recovery amulet, that is perfectly fine. What I have found, and I have stamina recovery amulets, I actually have a few of them, is once I get under 50% health, the stamina I get back really isn't saving me. So we definitely want a protection amulet here. You can either go flame or you can go thrust. Those are the 2 that you're going to really lean on for this patch. Either one doesn't really matter. The only thing that's going to change is how you gear your gems out. So make sure you get one of the 2. Health, obviously, is a must. Like I said, you can swap off an elemental version for stamina recovery, but here is the way that I look at it. When I have gear, I want it to, impact me the most times possible. So with that, if I get elemental version, that allows me to gear in a specific way that always helps me. So when it comes to my amulet, instead of getting a perk that doesn't proc that often, I can put something like refreshing that allows me to kind of gear a specific way. Because like I said, because we have 5 pieces of refreshing, if we go down to 4, we can't quite do our pillar heavy, pillar heavy, pillar heavy, and we would still lose basically 4% damage reduction because we would then have to put in more elemental resistances for it. I know it's kind of convoluted, and I hope you guys understand it. Let me know in the comment section below if you don't actually quite understand what I'm saying. Sometimes I know how I'm thinking it in my head, and it doesn't quite come out the way I'm thinking it, but I hope that you at least understand a little bit. We already showed the ring, running Champion's Ring. This is just BIS. There's nothing you can replace it. Like I said, you can technically get fire damage here for a little bit of increased damage when you don't crit, but we really want to crit here. We want to crit as much as possible, and it makes this build feel so much better. And then again, I mentioned the amulet. We're going refreshing, refreshing toast, and focused. There's 2 versions of this amulet. There's the tempered, tempestuous earring of the scholar, which comes out of the box for Tempest. Then there's actually a drop from Tempest, which is actually this exact earring. Which I don't know why they put 2 of the exact earring in the same dungeon, but we want to run those. And then for our heart and gem, you can run whatever you want. Cunning Heart Rune of Bile Bomb is your best, at least like war point, your pumper point. This is going to do a little bit of damage, but it's just going to allow you to have your big AoE that normally would be stat patty and turn that into just kills. This ability, this Heart Rune is absolutely crazy. On the fire staff, we can charge it up super fast. You can also run something like Stone Form. The problem I have with Stone Form, and of course you'd want the Mending Stone Form, the Stalwart, is we don't really utilize it that often. We can get our Heart Runes up super fast because of the sheer amount of AoE damage and sheer amount of players that we're hitting, that you don't really utilize it that much. You can also run the cannon. I like the single target cannon a little bit better than the AoE cannon, just because it's kind of use it to finish off targets. You can use that as well, which I think we have it right here, which is the Cunning Heart Rune of Cannon Blast. But like I said, this is going to allow your AoE to turn into not just stat pad, but to absolutely kills. Now, you might notice that we have our first freeze with a tier 2 gem in here, and that is because it's just going to increase our weapon damage. We're not going to crit or anything like that. This is just going to be the most damage output you're going to be able to have. You don't have to dodge. You don't have to do anything. You just put it down, and it just gives you increased damage. Go ahead and test it out if you'd like, if you don't believe me, but still in the game, still works. So the other gems we have here, we're running an Opal with an Ignited gem. Honestly, you don't really have to run the Ignited here. If you're running with other fire stabs, you want to make sure you're coordinating which ones actually have which element, because the elements don't stack. And to be honest, if you were going to run an OPR or something like that, I probably would not go Ignited, just because if there's other fire stabs, they're probably going to have Ignited anyway. So that way you can make sure you're getting your dot on there at all times. And then we're running, as you can see here, a lot of emeralds. Now, honestly, I made the onyxes and opals before this patch. If I could go back and change it, which I will here eventually, we'll probably just do a decent amount of opals, or not opals, emeralds and rubies. You can see here our damage reduction. We have 27% thrust, and we have 12.1% fire. Now remember, that's a little bit misleading, because we do have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of elemental version plus a flame conditioning. So we do get a lot of that extra elemental resistances. Now, it doesn't help against meteor shower, but if you're standing in meteor shower, you should probably just die anyway. I guess flame conditioning does, but elemental version does not. So that number's a little bit misleading. If I had to fix this, honestly, what we'd do is we'd put a ruby here, and we would put 2 emeralds here. We are going to basically say that if a great axe, great sword gets on us, and we don't have the ability to get away, then we are dead. Having said that, we are playing a mage. We have Ice Shower. We have the Ice Storm plus Root. So we have the ability to get out of basically anything that, any melee can get on top of us. So, and even if we were to gear ourselves towards it, there's still, because we're in light armor, because we're not running a whole lot of con, and even if we were running a lot of con, they're going to kill us anyway. So we want to just prevent the damage we know we're going to take. We don't know we're going to take a bunch of damage from melee. And in those cases, we're probably going to die most of the time, no matter how we gear ourselves. But we're going to be taking always range damage. So you really want to focus on that. All right, so let's show you how this build plays. So honestly, it's a pretty easy playstyle. We're just looking to pump. Now, the reason why we want 5 pieces of refreshing is for this reason specifically. So what we can do is we can pillar, heavy attack, pillar, heavy attack, pillar, heavy attack, and spam those pretty much infinitely. So let's go ahead and start with that, because it's easiest combo. Let's go ahead and pillar, heavy attack, pillar, heavy attack, pillar. If you get to 6, there's not that short cooldown. Oh, we actually missed one of our pillar hits here. Pillar, heavy attack. And you can see here, we have about like a 0.1 to 0.2 second interval, but honestly, not a big deal at all. 6 pieces will get you completely underneath that, but there's not really a benefit. That extra 0.1 second or 0.2 second is not really worth giving up a piece of elemental aversion or a stamina recovery or something like that. So that's kind of the base gameplay. You can see here that it's absolutely cracked out. The amount of damage output that you're going to have is pretty crazy. You're going to see it in some of the PvP clips. It's pretty nuts. Then, of course, we have our meteor. Just note, when you go ahead and put meteor shower down, make sure you are putting yourself in a position to not get hit. This is going to be your most vulnerable time. If you have a bow that is like a fully charged heavy into a pen shot, it's really going to do a ton of damage. It can get you killed. So make sure whenever you're doing meteor shower, it's one of your most powerful abilities, but it's also the ability that makes you the most vulnerable. So be very careful whenever you put it down, and you can just absolutely pump from pretty much any angle here. You can throw in a fireball, and you can just see the absolute sheer amount of damage that the fire staff produces is pretty crazy, which is the reason why we're just running a refreshing back bar weapon. Give us a little bit extra refreshing, charge our heart room a little bit faster. Look at those tiny little ticks. We don't care, because we're just going to be full pumping on the fire staff. Does so much more damage. We don't have a honing stone running or anything like that. But the sheer damage this build puts out is absolutely crazy. Now, one thing to note when it comes to Biobomb, it basically hits just like Fireball. So we can even go all the way over here. Hopefully I don't miss this. This is going to be embarrassing if I do. But you can basically just throw your Biobomb, and we hit it. We're a little bit short, but you can see the radius on it is very big. It provides a lot of heal reduction, and you can always get it where you need it to go. At least if you're like up, it just shoots basically just like Fireball. So whatever you want to hit Fireball with, just hit your bio, and it's going to heal cut them, and it's going to allow you to continue to spam your burst down. Like I said, we're just going to use Ice Storm to get our Heart Rune back faster. And you can see here, we get it up pretty fast. We just go ahead and quick charge it, Fireball, go ahead and Pillar. And you can see here, we've almost got it back up. That's one thing that's crazy about this build, is you just get your Heart Runes up super fast, and we can go back and Biobomb them. And now the Biobomb will actually even help you charge your ultimate as well. We just have so many dots ticking at the same time that it just makes it really hard for anybody to stand on point, especially when that Biobomb's down. Now, if you don't run Biobomb, there are going to be a lot of times where people can just heal through it, especially in heavy armor. So keep that in mind whenever you run it. Now, I told you there was a little bit different setup, so I want to show you that just really quick. And this would be the setup that I'm going to run if this build gets nerfed. What I think they'll nerf is they'll probably nerf the refreshing Pillar of Fire on the staff. I don't have any insider information, so I don't personally know, but if something happens and we get a swap in what we are doing, they're going to change something out, I'm probably going to run something like this. Now, again, these runes are going to change. I mean, I guess it depends on what the runes are. The runes, we have full igniting in there, which you're going to want, but the fact that we're running onyxes and opals probably would change next patch. But I call this set my tank fire, and here's why. Of course, we're still going to run first freeze. You can run, do I have it with me? I do not. Do I have it in a build? I do not, but you can run the crafted one that has unending thaw, which is probably a little bit better on this build than the refreshing, and refreshing move enchanted. It's really good. I forget what it's called. I've used it for years now, or a year now. But it's really good. But we just have the extra piece of refreshing on here because refreshing is fantastic on this build, even on this sort of tanky fire staff. So we're running a Keen Vicious Attunement. This is just going to be absolutely trying to pump the most damage. I like it over Fireball because, like I said, I want my perks to be proccing as much as possible. In Fireball, being a great pair of boots, still on there, gives you that extra damage. Still only people above 50% health. So we're going to go with a Keen Vicious Attunement. And then we're going to go with a Critical Retribution, Aversion, Resilient. We're going with Physical Aversion. Like I said, really doesn't matter which one you pick here. But just gear your gems towards it. Again, we're running that chest with Elemental Aversion, Flame Conditioning. We're running Elemental Aversion, Resilient, Refreshing, Pillar of Fire. Then the same pants here with Elemental Aversion, Resilient, Power and Meteor Shower. We have Elemental Aversion, Resilient, Meteor, or Fireball. And then here's where we get a little bit of the change up. We're going to run Stamina Recovery, Health, Thrust Protection. We are a little bit tanky here, so we're going to be able to survive more engagements. So that's why we're running the Stamina Recovery. But honestly, we could easily slot a piece of Refreshing in here, and we can have 1, 2, 3 pieces of Refreshing. Still pretty good, but because we're not stacking the Refreshing, we're going for more of a sustain tanky build, being able to duel a little bit more or kite out a little bit more. We're definitely going to go, I like the Stamina Recovery in this build because we are going to get below 50% health and not die more on this build than the other build. Then again, Champion's Amulet and the Temptationous Scholar Earring. This build, whenever I swap to it in OPR, it is super, super tanky comparatively to the other build. In this one, you can easily run like a 300, 200. This is more of like a support mage. This is more of like consistent damage. And honestly, you probably want to run Biobomb here as well. But here's the big difference. And this just really shows the power of the pumper build. So let's do the combo that we were doing before, right? The Pillar, Heavy Pillar. And we still have the Pillar perk. We just have it on our gloves, and we have 2 pieces of Refreshing versus 5. So let's look at the difference here. Pillar, Heavy, wait 3 seconds. Pillar, Heavy. It's basically Pillar, Heavy, Heavy, almost Heavy again, and then Pillar. So you can see here, it is definitely a lot slower. This build is going to allow you to spam, I guess, other abilities. and get more heavy attacks in, because we're definitely going to need it, because we just don't have that straight damage reduction. Now, again, this is going to be a fantastic build if you're going to go a little bit safer, going to be a little bit tankier, but this isn't just going to absolutely pump the amount of damage that the other build did. We do get a nice little increase in damage, at least base damage, because we're running our we get attunement on this weapon now too. I mean, you can go chain as well, because we are going to be heavy attacking a lot more on this build than the other one, but still really good. Still a build worth playing, and a build that I will probably lean on once the other one gets nerfed. But all right, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Like always, we're going to have PvP clips coming up after this one, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section down below how much you hate Fire Staff, because it is absolutely oppressive. But let's be honest, you guys are probably just playing bow and being the top in kills anyway. So all right, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe like always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do? I don't give a damn if you say you disapprove. I'm gonna make my move, I'm gonna make it soon. And I'll do it cause it's what I wanna fucking do. Cause all these opinions and all these positions, they come in millions, they blocking your vision. But no, you can't listen, that shit is all fiction. Cause you hold the power as long as you're dreaming.
There's no way that you make it, and maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Are you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Are you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back? Fight back. You ain't gonna make it, you ain't never ever gonna break it. You can never beat them and they're better than you face it. Thinking that they give a damn, you're not, think a straight kid. No, they don't give a damn, you got what I'm saying? I'm not fucking playing, I'll give it to you straight, man. There's too many others and you're not that great, man. Stop what you're saying, stop what you're making. Everybody here knows that you just faking. Nah, I don't wanna hear it anymore, I don't wanna hear it anymore. All these fucking thoughts, they are not what I need anymore. I'm about to shut the motherfucking door on all you poor ass haters with your heads in the clouds, talking out loud so proud. You better shut your goddamn mouth before I do more speak out. It's about to head south. Never gonna make it. There's no way that you make it, and maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Are you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Are you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back? Fight back.